Welcome to the Extraordinary Being Movement, where we inspire you to take action, influence you to create change, and motivate you for success. Hi, I'm your host and coach, Len DeCarmine. We're going to be talking about creating the blueprint to begin your personal journey. But before I do that, allow me to introduce my two favorite co-hosts, Fred Martinez and Christopher Shiver. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm number one.
I was going to let you go first this time, man. Be nice.
I'm letting you guys fight it out.
Gladiator fight. Go. I'm excited today because our guest on today, so honestly, I don't think there's anybody out there that understands the world of networking better at this current time.
No, Chris, and networking is something that we need to do either in person or virtual. So I'm excited that we have him with us today. It's going to be an amazing show. He's going to really help us understand how to lay out that blueprint, those first small steps to get yourself going and get yourself in the right direction. I think, this year is something that everybody needs. So let's not waste any more time. Our special guest is an entrepreneur, business owner, best-selling author, TEDx panelist, connector with a demonstrated history of working in the internet industry. He is the founder of Network Together, hosts the iNETrepreneur radio show, publishes the iNETrepreneur magazine, and provides a low-cost, high-impact way for entrepreneurs, business owners, and influencers to be seen, heard, and create additional income. Please welcome Robert Jones to the show. Robert, how are you?
I am doing fine. I appreciate being on your show this early evening. And man, when you start talking about all that stuff, I start looking around and saying, who are you talking about? Because it sounded so good the way you said it. I'm going to have to hire you and have you do that each and every time anywhere I go, Lynn. So you are hired. You are hired.
I give people that option. They can hire me for hosting events and being an MC. So that's perfect.
Yeah, no, I really, really appreciate it. And you know what's really crazy about all the things that you said there? Many of those things all took place after this crazy thing early in the year called COVID. In a 72-hour period, Len, and Chris knows this, we had to go from an all in-person networking and event company to an all virtual company overnight. And it was no easy thing to do because we put on over 1,000 meetings and events per year. 1,000. So that was on average 3 events and meetings per day.
Wow, that's a lot of events. I mean, let's talk about a little bit about your personal journey. Then we'll come back to that because I want to hear about how you were able to make that all happen. So, Robert, tell us a little about who you are and about Network Together.
Well, Network Together actually started out because I had moved here from San Diego and I had an internet company and it was doing very, very well, but I really just wanted to get close to my family again. They all lived in Arizona. I had gone to ASU. I'd been in California for about 15 years. I worked for some really nice corporate corporations, but I always somewhat had an entrepreneurial bug. I'd like to say I was more made than born. I had an uncle who was a woods and craftsman, so he built cabinets and built homes, and that's where I learned a lot of working with my hands. So I still had a little bit of that in me. And so when I moved out here, I moved to, of all places, Santan Valley, Arizona. And at that point in time in 2008, it was a totally different world than it is right now in 2020. And at that particular point in time, I tried to join the local Chamber of Commerce. And unfortunately, the gentleman who owned that chamber did the exact same thing that I did, and that was web development, graphic design, and hosting. And so I put in my application and I was denied. Oh. And I thought to myself, what kind of cruddy chamber is this? So I floundered around and I was like, okay, it's okay. I'm still going to make it. Just because my real estate's falling apart and, I came out here to actually invest in real estate so I could go back to San Diego, and live the dream, live that laptop lifestyle and all. Unfortunately, I went from 4 homes to 0 homes in a matter of 18 months.
Wow.
So then I don't want to say stuck in Santan Valley, but let's just say that wasn't where I really was wanting to end up, but I was there and I met a lot of good people there. But I met this other gentleman. He lives in San Diego now, and he just retired. His name is Elliot Kahn. And he said, you know what? Robert, I have this awesome leads group for you to join. And I'm like, okay, sure. I can't join the chamber. Why don't I just go to a leads group? Maybe I can get some business there. So I remember going to this coffee shop, Len, and I walked into the door, and guess who the first person I saw was?
Who was it?
It was the same guy who ran the chamber.
Oh.
And so we both locked eyes, and I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I shook my head, and I went, oh, no. And so I walked right back out the door knowing that would be denied as well. And I said, you know what? I was a Marine. I'm going to improvise. I'm going to overcome, and I'm going to adapt, and I'm going to create, a network that I believe will work in today's times. And it started out previous to Network Together was bagels and coffee in the morning for networkers. Unfortunately, it wasn't the sexiest title ever. So it took about 2 years. And one time I was sitting around with a group of people. And do you believe that we can learn from kids?
Of course.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. So here we are. My son was like 4 or 5 years old at the time. And we were talking about networking, and we were talking about how business owners come together. And my son goes up, he goes, hey, Dad, I think you guys network together. And, and hence there it was. A new name was hatched from my 5-year-old son saying, let's call your business Network Together. And so we had Network Together as a business up until about the end of 2020. And in 2021, we decided to go into a name change because we grew way out of our networking footprint. We offer so much more. Sure. That kind of gives you a little bit of history about how the Network Together iNETrepreneur network was formed.
Okay, yeah. No, I love it. That's a great story. Now, let's go back to what you said originally about all these events. How did you make all that happen through your networking?
Oh, so really, you want to know this, right? This is the little things. It's like, yeah. I mean, the big thing is the 1,000 events. The little thing is my wife and I had to sit down almost like belly to belly, eye to eye with our computers. And she's in social media, and I'm on Zoom, and then she's on Zoom, and I'm on social media, and I'm going to the website. And Len, one by one, we had to change every flyer, every calendar, every social media footprint that we had out there, our website, learn Zoom, and then you know what's even crazier? Then we had to reach out to, at the time we had 14 chapters, and we had to reach out to every chapter team, which has 4 members, and then we had to train them. And we did that in about a 72-hour time frame.
Wow.
So that turned into, you've heard of 3-day events. Well, that truly was a 3-day event, but each day was 24 hours each over the course of 3 days to get that all done. We did it, but I wouldn't wish that upon anyone because it was a lot of work, but it did turn into a lot of fruitful things came of it. But it goes back to, like you and I both know, entrepreneurs are a different breed. They have that rhino skin, and they will do anything to get through the jungle to make things happen, for their community. And that's what my wife and I did. We decided we're going to make this happen for our community, because our community has a need, and we need them. And our need for them is to get them seen because they all have a message and it all needs to be heard because that's where business comes in.
Hey, Robert, I got a question.
Yeah.
Can you give some tips on how to develop that entrepreneurial mindset?
I talk about this a lot, Fred and Frederick, and what I've learned is we always talk about mindsets so much. But what I found is there needs to be a little bit of the precedent set of a heart set before you can even get to the mindset. It's so important because I have worked myself, my master's degree is exercise physiology and sports psychology. And in that world, if you talk to a world-class athlete and they're running quarter miles and they're running sprints, they never say, man, I wish I knew more. They're always like this. I need more heart. I need to get that last one. I work from the inside out, not the outside in. So the first thing that I would always say to an entrepreneur is, before you look at making money, make sure your heart is set in the passion of what you're about to do. Because if you're really not passionate about what you do, you may make a little bit of money, but you'll never be personally happy enough to really satisfy the clients you're eventually going to receive.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I definitely can vouch for that, because Robert actually takes the time to actually listen to everybody and hear them out. And what I like about it is, like, Robert, every time I've been with you, I've never felt like you were waiting to respond or reply. You were actually like listening to what I was saying. And honestly, I've learned a lot from you, just listening to you and hearing you talk about things. Because, like, guys, every time I hear Robert talk about something, it's like a $500 tip, like every freaking 5 minutes or so.
And one of the biggest tips I'll say is this, for people who see, most people don't not succeed because they don't have the mindset, but what they do is they live in a fear set. And the fear set, you could say, comes from the mind, but it really comes from the heart. Because it's the heart where belief resides. No one ever said belief resides in the brain. Belief actually resides in the heart. And if you can get your heart to change, your mind will change as well. It always follows.
No, I absolutely love that. So it sounds like for somebody to start their personal journey, one of the first steps they need to do is start really having that heart, start really, honing in on what their passion, what their purpose is, and really have that flourish, and realize that, fear, the fear base, may not be in the mind, but actually in the heart. And the heart's holding itself back for really going out there for its true purpose. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, think about this. People are motivated by fear more than almost anything else in life.
Sure.
They have a fear because they can't provide. They have a fear because they have a need. They have a fear because it's necessary. And if you really think about how the human anatomy in the mind, works, if you're talking about the neurons, and Chris, you know about this as well, think about the things that keep you up at night. The things that keep you up at night are actually, you can feel your pulse start to race. You can feel your heart race. You can feel the pounding of your body, not your head. See, that all comes from a different fabric of self, and I tell, my members all the time, when we get to sit down and talk, I said, before you can get your mind right, you have to have your heart set. Because it controls everything. There's another saying that they said, that they talk about the conscious and the subconscious, the ant and the elephant. Well, quite frankly, truly, the elephant's your heart. The mind is the ant.
No, I love that. That's a great metaphor. That's something I might just take from you, Robert. I'm sorry. I love it.
I have a great vantage point too, guys, because, one of the things I've been able to see is, I always call it the window shopping of networking. And I would write that down. I'd say, be a window shopper. Sit in a room. And back in the day, we used to call it the wallflower. You sit in any room and you start looking at the dynamics of the room, the movements of the people, the aura that you can see around them. And one of the things I always say is, before you can do something, you should feel that something. And once you feel that something, then you can start to see. And when it comes to actually selling, I always say this: people don't buy what they hear, they buy what they see. They really do. And if they can see it, they can believe it. They never say, if you hear it, you can believe it. It's always, if you see it, you can believe it. And it's so important for entrepreneurs who are starting out to really do two things. And we talked a little bit about this before the show. One is to understand, what is their mission? What is it that they're really attempting to provide and do for someone else? And so much of the time, I call it a word cloud. So much of the time, what I really challenge, my students to do is to sit down and say, this is what I do, but let's think of some words, and let's say, that's what you do, but tell me who you are. because I've never seen anyone not buy from someone or not work with someone if they don't have a strong sense of self.
Sure.
And that's really important for anyone who's going to go out there. But I'm going to go back to Fred's question. He said, what is that kind of like first step? I always say that the first step is always just showing up and being present.
Mm. That's a great first step. I mean, that's people. I think people lack that a lot.
They do, absolutely. And that's why it's really good to look in the room. Look at the people who actually take the first step, because the ones that show up, they do something second that's really magical. Anytime that they enter any room and anytime they're around other people, they do two things. The first thing they do is they're the first to smile.
Mm-hmm.
Really, they're the first to smile. And that means they're open for input. They're open for expression. They're open to be received and to give. But see, there's one other thing that's very, very important after the smile. The second step that should be done, whether it be here, and guys, I'm going to do it again. Here's my handshake to you. Thank you. I feel blessed being here with you. But when you're with people in an environment, be the first one to extend your hand out, or in this day of COVID, to give a knuckle.
Fist bump.
Yeah. And so you may say, if done in a non-threatening way, one of the things that's really incredible about that is it goes back to a child's birth. With the mom and the dad actually see what you're doing is you're picking them up as babies, and you're bringing them towards you for protection, security, and also for love. That's why it's so important for all of us to have a smile. We don't frown at our kids. We don't frown at our babies. We are naturally in tune to be attracted to those who smile.
Of course.
And the second thing we are naturally attracted to is those who go one step further than the smile, and that's reach out to do what? I am here to help you.
Here to serve.
The most powerful thing that you can ever do is to lend your hand out to help.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that, because a lot of people don't, stay so reserved. They don't want to share about who they are and what they're up to. They, we always ask people, how you doing? You hear the word fine, but what does that mean? There's so much more about, really express yourself. Let people know what you're up to. Let people know how you're really feeling, and really be authentic. And I think that's where a lot of people who succeed in life, because they are being genuine, they are being authentic, and they are being open and present, like you said, and they want to be there to help other people.
And I love that you say the word fine. I mean, what does fine mean?
Sure.
What fine really means in this day and age, and one thing I love is literature. I used to run, believe it or not, poetry slams in San Diego. I used to get up on stage and I used to do interpretive poetry. I've written poetry. I've read other people's poetry. It was one of my passions because it was a way to express and overcome fear. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I like to say I was clinically shy as a child. I had a speech impediment. I stuttered. I was one of those kids that had the lisp, and I was always the one that was getting beaten down on because, I made everyone else feel better. I was the kid in the room where it was just like, oh, well, gosh, now that Robert Jones comes into the room, I can beat up on him, and now I'm going to feel all butch about it and whatnot, because that's just, sometimes what happens in the pecking order of male youth, right? At least back in my day and age, but I went to a speech pathologist. I had some counseling. I had a psychologist. They helped me work through this. Then I took stage and I got into athletics, and when I hear the word fine doesn't get me from being, clinically shy to being able to walk across the stage with thousands of people staring at you. Sure. God did not create each and every one of us with the gift of fine.
Mm-hmm.
God created each and every one of us to create the gift of awesomeness, to create a gift that we can share with others. And another thing I hear about collaboration all the time. And one of the things that I hear not enough of is competition. It's okay to compete, everyone out there. Competing is what sharpens your personal skills. What I like to say is, but collaboration is what allows us to share our skills.
No, I love that. I love that. I love that perspective of it, because you're right. People are working more towards collaboration than figure out, competition, because everybody wants to win. We've got that mindset where everybody needs to be a winner. Yeah. Where business is a competition. Whoever gets to market first, whoever sells the most product first, whoever promotes himself the most is the one who's going to be out there getting the most notice and winning in business.
And that's another thing I want to myth bust that.
Okay.
I always say, in athletics, it's winning. And a lot of times we take our sports vernacular and we bring it over to business.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Yes. In sports, it's about winning. But what I tell people in business, it's not about winning, it's about succeeding.
Mm.
Because when you can succeed, everyone wins, even those who compete against each other. Really in business, the only person an entrepreneur competes against is themselves. Believe me, when the guy or gal invented the wheel, they didn't look around and say, oh my goodness, who's going to compete with me? No, they invented the wheel,
Sure.
And each and every entrepreneur really should think that they have their own wheel. You're not competing against anyone, because those who see what you do well, they'll engage with you. They'll interact with you. They will request that you provide goods and services or coaching, etc., because you're an expert of what you do and you have a passion for what you do. That isn't about winning. That's actually about succeeding and helping them to gain their level of success. And so many times that I hear us talking in business, and it's like, man, we got to start changing our vernacular. It isn't about winning anymore. It's about how can we all succeed. Our legacy isn't being the only one on the mountain. Our legacy is how many people can I bring with me?
I love that. Thank you. I love that. Thank you so much. Because it just reminds me, it takes me back to military school, because it's not winning that matters. It's how we win that matters. How many people are we going to bring with us? No man left behind, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's competition. But I like how you put it, because it's not like one man wins, one person wins. It's we all get to win together. And honestly, Robert, I look around today, and I feel like COVID has kind of shocked a lot of entrepreneurs to understand that, hey, you're not going to make it in this world unless you start collaborating and succeeding with everybody else.
And it's the thing is again, when you talk about competing and you talk about collaborating, sometimes we don't even understand the words that we say. Compete doesn't mean obliterate anyone else. Compete, really what it means is placing yourself in the opportunity to be found. That's competing. And then, collaborating is actually being able to take cooperative steps of what I said earlier, and that's the sharing of each other's gifts. I have a saying, and Len, you like sayings. Collaborating is this: I have salt, you have sugar. I will give you my salt if you give me your sugar, and we both succeed. Mm-hmm. We both create a place for success. Because we're actually sharing our two experts. And if Frederick has pepper, and Chris has, I don't know, tonic water, but we can all come together and have a crazy drink, right?
The one thing that I've seen about being successful in life is a really good example would be if you follow the Rudy Rudiker story, not watching like Rudy, the movie, but if you follow the story of actually Rudy Rudiker and you find exactly how he became successful, he basically acted as if he was a student at Notre Dame. He spent more time at Notre Dame than what he did than when he was at the junior college trying to get in. he made it to a point where he was in the dean's office. The people that he knew that were handpicking the students to come in, he made it aware that they knew his name. And it got to a point where it's like he wanted to go there, that no matter what. And he, because of him being there and being and presenting himself, that they realized that he got rejected like 50 times in order to get into Notre Dame. You're looking at this individual who didn't have the academics, who did not have a lick of athletic ability, and he ended up playing at his senior year for the last game. And you look at it and think it was only a few minutes of it, but when you look at what he did, and when he was on the field and he ended up rushing to the quarterback and he sacked them, it actually happened. When you actually see the real footage and you see the movie footage, he was part of a tackle, and you see that type of what he wanted.
And it goes back to, what he really had is he had the heart.
Yeah.
It didn't have anything to do with a mental prowess or the physical prowess. It had all to do was how could he step past himself, step past that fear, and have the desire that led to the heart that manifested through everything. And it's quite fascinating that you talk about that, because another thing I talk about too is there's really 4 ways I look at human beings and their development, and I love that this is called the extraordinary being movement. And here are kind of like the 4 ways that I found in my life. In a lot of what I know, it's not because I've read everything. It really is being the wallflower and just watching people. Sometimes we forget that our own human mind has the ability to use, logic, has the ability to use observation, has the ability to create hypotheses and test them, and that's what I love about statistics, and you can play that in mind. But, one of the things I've learned in life is there's 4 things that I see that make an extraordinary human. It's the nature that's been given to them, what gifts they're born with. It's the nurture that they've been raised with. The third thing, it's the noodle that they develop. Right? And it's the heart that allows love. And for me, what makes an extraordinary human being is to know that it takes those 4 things to be extraordinary. The gifts you've been given, the nurture that you've been raised in. And even if you've had a crappy life, if you can fail forward with every crappy step and learn from it, guess what? That leads to success when it comes to both your mind and heart, because that's what we're given. That's what we're given to become extraordinary. Those are the tools. I'm still looking for the money tree in my backyard and I haven't found it. So I'm still sticking with those 4 things.
No, I love it. Now, Robert, as an entrepreneur, we all go through our ups and downs. Going through that process, we have our highs and we have our lows.
Yeah.
What do you recommend for somebody who's, their heart's being challenged, but they're still in it for the long run, but they need to pull themselves back up? What do you recommend, or what are things that you do to help us or help them get through that challenging point?
Yeah, and I get this, especially when you're starting out, because you can't always just hire a coach right out the gate. And quite frankly, for a lot of entrepreneurs, when you start out, you really don't have a lot of support around you.
Yeah.
You really don't. I mean, a lot of times, a lot of us are all born into families where they pay, pray, and obey. And it's just like you go out, you get a good job, you do your schooling, and all of a sudden you decide, I'm going to just take this other fork in the road and I'm going to go down that road and I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And a lot of times those people who are closest to you many times are the ones that really kind of dagger you.
Yes.
And that's tough. And for people that can't hire coaches, there's 3 things that I recommend. And I recommend this dearly. The first thing is is to, when you get up in the morning, to write everything that you're grateful for. You have to do it. Write what you're grateful for. I don't care if it's the breaths that you breathe, if it's the stars that you see, it's the thoughts that you think. Because once you start creating a gratefulness journal, what happens is you actually start to believe the very things that you feed yourself. The second thing is create an assessment of all the information that you put into your life. I always call it like, change the channel on your television set. I used to say back in the day. We also become the information that we are. And we talked about the ant and the elephant, and sometimes we say the elephant takes a long time to change it, but if that ant works for years and years and years, guess what? That elephant will be moved by that ant. So the first thing you got to do is consciously change the information that you feed yourself with. Lastly, there's one other thing that I always say. It's start to use your mind and awareness, the awareness of those who are around you, and seek out people that can also help you forward yourself. And what I mean by that is everyone needs to create at least 5 fans in their life. Just 5. That's all you got to start with. And I've talked to Chris about this before too. Chris and I talk about it. I said the human being can move mountains with just 5 people. And then the other thing you want to do is look at those 5 people and look at the 5 people in their life, and that's 25. Once you have that, you have the establishment of the right people in your life, the right information in your life, and the right self-awareness in your life that creates the gratefulness journal that can help you position yourself to success.
I know that sometimes people look at it, they don't have those 5 people because maybe they're in a toxic environment. So what would you say to those people that need those 5 people? Where would they find those 5 people that are going to help them for their success?
Now, I've been asked that question before as well. And I know it, and I like that. So one of the things that I learned from one of my spiritual mentors, one time, and this was of course when I was a little bit younger. He always told me, he said, you know what? If you live in a community or a city, you have 2 feet. And he said, one of the first things that you can do is just start to walk each and every day and start to look at the people who you want to know. And I'm like, that's crazy. Why would I do that? But here's the thing. I did it. And I started walking, and I started looking for people who had kindness. I started looking for people who had that hand that was extended out, those people that smiled. And I did the thing that I feared the most because I came from a shy background. I had to overcome a hell of a lot of fear. And I started striking up conversations with them. And instead of feeling alone, I made my fan list. And that really helped me create the courage to actually be, where I am today. Having one of the largest, most successful networking and entrepreneurial development organizations in the world. It wasn't because I stopped moving. It was because every time I didn't want to move anymore, I took another step. And that's what entrepreneurs really need to do. When they feel like they have nothing, if they're breathing, they have everything. If their heart is beating, they can do anything. And if they have, even a small access to technology where you could communicate, they have an outlet to worlds beyond just where they're at in their present place. So it really is amazing. Do we look at our world and we say, you know what, I'm going to be defined by where I'm at and what I'm in, or am I going to define myself with where I'm going to go and where I'm going to be? And that is the toughest thing. But the thing is I can think about it, Frederick. I can think about it all the time, but I gotta have a heart to move myself, to get past the think and get to the do. That's more important.
Love
You
it.
know, and even in Buddhist teachings, you know, it's not about the thought, it's about having no thought.
Mhm.
You know, it really is. You know, it's about the practice of quieting the mind so it can live. You know, and it's amazing when you can quiet the mind, because you can feel your life energy beat. And I know that might be a little bit strong for business, but you know, if you're truly in a struggling place, what I do each and every morning, and I don't struggle so much because believe me, this last year has thrown a lot of struggles at me, is each and every morning I go out, I settle myself down, I do my stretching exercises. Some would say would be like Tai Chi, and I go to a quiet space and I renew myself outdoors in the universe. The second thing I do each and every day, almost, is I go out to a grassy area in my community and I walk barefoot in the grass to be grounded to the earth to renew me.
Mm.
Mm.
You know, and you may think it's crazy, but I guarantee you, if you work 14-hour days and you just give yourself two 30-minute time frames in that 14-hour day, you know, do that 30 days in a row, you will be a different person.
No, I love that. That's something I think I should definitely take on because sometimes I overwhelm myself with too much work and I build up that anxiety, and because I want to get so much done and do so many things and accomplish so much in my life, that sometimes, you know, I need to take that little break and step outside and feel the grass underneath my feet and have the sun shining on me, just to feel that renewed energy.
Yeah.
You know, to practice some mindfulness, being grateful for what I have, and then go back in and then begin again with a new mindset, a new frame to work
Yeah.
from.
Yeah. You know, in Len, you're so spot on. And, you know, all you guys are spot on, because one of the things that we have to look at, it's not about being apart from others. You know, it's about being a part of others. You know, and that's not just with people. That's actually about the well of the universe itself. Because what you're doing is when you get so in, and you see, so many of us work on what we do, but we don't work on who we are.
True.
And I have found in my life, if we work a little bit more on who we are, the what we do becomes more easy. It just does. Because we actually, I always like to say, because we have a sense of self. Every time we step outside, we get to look at our inside. But if we're always working in the business, right? If we're always working in ourselves, guess what? We never get the perspective of being outside and being able to challenge where we're at now. You know, because we're so busy, we're so busy being in that pond, we forget about the stream of opportunity. And that's really the place that we need to be, is how do we get to walk to that stream of opportunity? Because when you get so focused in, you start to forget about everything that's going on around you, because that's all opportunity. And I say any opportunity, it's not an opportunity cost, it's actually an opportunity lost.
Sure.
You know, and and that's what I always tell people. You know, my dad told me, you know, when I was a really kid, he's like, you know what, here's the thing, Robert, and most people don't understand this. Even those who live in the most dire straits, there's always more opportunities that come into their life than any other thing, but they just don't choose to see it.
Mm. Robert, you have a lot of wisdom that you've been throwing at us, that it's like, that I wanted to like to know, with the wisdom that you do have right now, going to your young version of yourself when you're 20 years old, what would you tell your young version of yourself?
You know, if well, you know, I have the young version of myself. I actually have 4 of them. They're called kids. And so, I mean, you know what? I would tell the young version of myself to just stop, breathe, live, and enjoy. Because I believe, like with my kids nowadays, in certain ways they put so much on themselves, and I do too, that we get so busy in the framework of the time and the moments of each and every day, we don't understand to know and appreciate the time and the moments of each and every day. And when that happens for far too long, we forget to love ourselves.
Mm.
And if I went back, I know my life would be 10 times, it'd be 100 times, it'd be a million times if I just would have understood back then to say, you know what? I'm blessed. Be grateful. And so, so you might say, how do I relive myself? I try to do it very gingerly, cautiously optimistic with my kids. But the one thing I do with them that I've learned is I read with them, great books. It's not just about, okay, they have chores and they have schoolwork, but it's not about that. It's about what is the time that I have with them. Because what I'm trying to teach them is I'm trying to teach them that life is a gift and each day is a present, and we need to live it better. And for me, if I was myself telling myself as a kid, I would say, you know what, just enjoy each and every moment and don't worry so much about everything that's going on around you, because the more that you change yourself, the more the universe will change for you. And that's what I would really, express to myself as a kid.
Wow. That's so powerful because I cannot, like, after you said all that, it hit me really hard because I'm thinking of my kids. I'm thinking of this business that we're all starting here together, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh wow, like I don't want that to happen to me where I get so locked in my business, and now I'm starting to think about it. I know people in my own personal life that are so locked in who can't see out, like even to the point where their families are going like, hey, like we miss you, spend time with us, like talk to us, be present with us, and they, as you said, they just choose not to see it, or if that's the right way to say it.
Yeah. Well, it is. And it's about being, see, the more that you can be in the moment, think about this in business, the more that you can be in the moment, the more that you can understand and find clarity with those that you serve. And so each and every business that you work with, it's not about selling them, it's not even about informing them. It really is about serving them. And the only way that you can serve well and do well is to listen well. And
Mm-hmm.
the only way that you can listen well is you have to get rid of the head trash that goes on in your mind, because that's where mistakes are made. You see red, I see blue, we create green or something like that from it. And that's why many business relationships fail, is because it's not because we fail because we want to fail, it's because we fail to listen.
No, that's very powerful. And just going back to also what you were saying is that about your younger self is that people are going through the motions. They're not really experiencing what they're experiencing at the moment in their present life. And and that's a whole missed opportunity there, because they were more in tuned with understanding what was going on with inside them. They could understand more what's going on outside of them,
Yeah.
and be a better listener and be more compassionate, and just have look at things from a different perspective, because they're taking in the experience on a different level than just brushing it along.
And I want to keep that going, because one of the things is I have found power in Zoom. I found power in Skype. I find power in Google Meet. But here's the things, it reminds me of, there's a movie, and the movie slips my mind right now because I've watched it once, but it was Robin Williams, and he was sitting on the park bench, and he was talking to his young protege, Matt Damon. And I remember him in that scene, and he was talking about, you know, I can read it in a book, but it's so much different than if I feel that tree, or if I walk into the Louvre, or if I put my feet in the sand, or if I see the stars that shine. The thing is we are sensual beings. And what my some of my fear is is, it's not about being robotic and automatic. It really is about being sensory and perception oriented. And that's what we learn by being able to experience the extraordinary human being by being with each other.
Sure.
Because for as social as we are, and for as much eye contact as we get to have in these moments, the thing is I can imagine what this energy feels like, but the only way I can truly feel this energy is actually to be near you.
Right.
And,
Yes.
and that's one thing, because I don't want technology, to thwart our humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's our humanity that creates our existence, because technology did not create us, we created technology.
Yes.
And that sometimes is something that we forget. And that's why it goes back to business. And everyone says, well, what does this have to do with business? And it goes back to the same very thing that we talked about this before the show. Most business owners worry about the methods, the push marketing and the pull marketing.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? They've never defined the mission of what it is that they do, and they've never clarified the message to their intended audience. And that is exactly why. Because if you don't have that one-on-one, human interaction, you'll never get to the point of knowing what that clarity looks like, and two, knowing if your mission makes sense. That's why we always rush to the method. And that's why we pay marketers, thousands, if not millions of dollars, and we miss the mark. Because I always say, there's a saying in the computer industry, and I used to be a computer programmer, garbage in, garbage out.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what, I can put you in front of a bunch of hog farmers, and you can try to sell them sensei, but they're not going to buy it. I'm sorry. You got to have the right product for the right audience at the right price. But you can only do that with a clear mission, clear message, and then you can get through to your methods. And that's it. And sometimes we forget to do that as business owners.
No, I totally agree with you on that topic there. And Robert, throughout the show here, you have really brought lots of insights for anybody looking to create a blueprint, take those first steps on that personal journey, whether it be life or business. And you have really, brought a real experience to us for this show tonight, which we are grateful for, because it takes people like you who can stand up and take a stand for others to really get a message out there for them to make a difference. And who knows whose life you're touching this evening being on this show with us. So I want to thank you for showing up and taking that stand for others who may not be there yet because their heart is not there. Not there yet, but maybe listening tonight will make that big difference to them. So I want to thank you. I want to get some thoughts from Fred and Chris. Fred, what's some thoughts that you have? What's resonating with you from today's show?
Well, the one thing I kind of see is just being present and showing up. That is the thing. As being an athlete myself, is in order for you to be on that court or be in the event, you have to be there. If you're just showing up and you're there, but you're not being fully present and aware, you're missing out on so many opportunities. And you can see that a lot with like I've used this analogy so many times. When you see a team on March Madness, when they're losing, you look at the bench. You don't have to look at the score. You look at the bench and you see their body language. They're not being present. They're not being fully aware of being engaged, even if they're losing, and they're saying, hey, we're happy to be here. And it's because of that the energy is flowing. And you've seen other teams that are just scrapping for the ball and doing everything they possibly can and just saying, hey, we're playing against the #1 team and we're going to do everything we possibly can. It's because they're not putting it all on the court. They're just letting it just like letting somebody else beat them up instead of, because they're beating themselves, not by even by not being present in that environment.
Yeah.
No, I love that, Fred. Chris, what's some of your thoughts this evening?
I just want to iterate about network together because right now, like, there's a lot of people out there who are starting on their own businesses. Gig economy is becoming a thing. And like, let's be honest, it was a tough year, and the thing is, I truly believe that now a lot of people are starting to go like, why did I work so hard? Why did I do all this for some, as an employee, for some person, whatnot? I got mistreated. Now I want to do my own thing. I want to have my own power. I want to have my own business, my own passion, my own mission. But the truth of the matter is, that's really, really hard. And I can't think of any better place that I personally have come to where I got to be able to, like, well, let's be honest, 3 meetings a day. You have access to 3 meetings a day. There's no excuse. It's just go in there, throw yourself into it. I like to call it the gauntlet, where when I go to like every single meeting on a week, where I just want to meet as many people as I possibly can. And I'm doing the gauntlet. And the thing is, a lot of people think that, oh, I can just go through that whole course, all those people, and I'll get a lot of leads. No, you won't. Not unless your mission statement's figured out, not unless your heart's centered, like Robert has put out, because I do see people come through there and they learn the hard way. They're like, wow, I didn't make a connection. What happened? What was the difference? And in those groups, it forces you to really like evaluate yourself and look at yourself. What am I saying? What is my message? And what am I about? Truly, what am I about? And I can't think of any better place to do that right now than Network Together. So Robert, I just want to say thank you so much for creating that space, for creating that place where people don't feel ashamed, where people don't get daggered by their close loved ones and whatnot. It's an incredible place.
No network shaming. We do no networking shaming in iNETrepreneur Network. No networking shaming.
None at all. None at all. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, Robert, we are coming to the end of our show. Why don't you share a little bit more about your business, your books, everything that you have going on?
Yeah, we actually have 5 divisions within the iNETrepreneur network, and what we've created is a low cost, high impact way for entrepreneurs to get their voice heard, and it really is important. There's a definition called omnichannel marketing, and omnichannel marketing means that you both do traditional and business oriented tools. You have like a toolbox. But we call it personal omnichannel marketing because we also have the networking element. But our 5 divisions are this. We have a radio division, so we have a radio network, which we produce radio shows. We have our world-class magazine. We have some of the best thought leaders in the world. But here's the thing, it's also for those who are just beginning their journey as well. You might have Alex Stern or Mark Victor Hansen on one page, and then all of a sudden you got Christopher Shriver on the other page. I mean, it's awesome. And we do that because, everyone's lights glow. Someone might have started their light glowing earlier, and so it's brighter later, but it doesn't mean that they don't have the same amount of passion, skill, need, desire, want, whatever. We also have our networking and events division. We have our educational academy. And, lastly, we have our publishing arm. In our publishing arm, we just we're releasing our book called The Art of Connection, 365 Days of Networking Quotes by entrepreneurs, business owners, and influencers. And we brought that book to the marketplace because we felt like, we can do toy drives. And I did the PetSmart toy drive, and hey, you know what, guys? I delivered 4,000 toys to foster kids. So I'm going to put that out there. Thank you, PetSmart. Yeah. But I also wanted to plug for PetSmart. But I also wanted to say we did this book because we also wanted to get to people here locally to say, we do want to support you. We do want to provide inspiration for you. There is hope out there. Frederick, you talked about it yourself. How do we find it? Well, this was a way to get to people to say, there's other people out there, and they've gone through something really crazy, and they're saying, I've been through this crazy thing. I have learned from this, and I'm starting to succeed once again. I've recovered from my failures this past year, but now I'm succeeding. And we're here with you, and that's what that book is about. It's about those entrepreneurs giving their heart set and their mindset, in almost a daily devotional, each and every page, to other entrepreneurs are out there. And it's been an amazing journey. And so what happened was, in the course of 2 months, it started in Arizona, and then it went national, and then it went international. So we have people from France and India and Argentina and Sweden, and what I found is there's extraordinary beings everywhere. And it takes extraordinary people. But one of the things I always say, people always ask me, what does it take to create a great community? And I said, it starts by knowing that your product and your service is people. And that's the most important thing. And I'm not in the networking business. I'm not in the magazine business. I'm not in the radio network business. At the end of the day, I'm in the people serving business. And the more people I can serve and not mess it up, the better it is for them, the better it is for my community. And that's where my heart set is. And when I'm getting there, and I hope I never get there, quite frankly, because I'm enjoying the journey. I just want to be with as many people as possible.
Sure.
And that's what the iNETrepreneur Network is about. It's about all of us coming together. Do we compete? Sure. Everyone needs to eat. Let's just do it nicely. Do we collaborate? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, there's only one race, and it's called the human race. And we either win or lose, right? Or we either succeed or fail together.
No, Robert, that's absolutely amazing. If people want to get a hold of you, how can they go about doing that?
And the easiest way, I'm old school, okay? Just pick up the phone and call me. So it's 480-299-0088, 480-299-0088. Or my easier email address, because I know iNETrepreneur is a little bit hard to handle in the spelling. So just send an email to robert@networktogether.net, robert@networktogether.net, or look for Robert W. Jones and Network Together in LinkedIn. That's another great way to find me.
Perfect. And if they want to find out more about your networking company, how can they go about doing that?
I would go, let's go to the easy side again. I know my wife kills me on iNETrepreneur Network. She's like, why did you have to make it so hard? I thought, well, networking and entrepreneur, I thought it sounded good together. And she's like, but no one can spell it. I'm like, well, that's what Google's for. Oh, I can't spell it either. Great. So you can go to, you can go to networktogether.net. Go to networktogether.net and on there, or you can take a short link, and that's ntevents.net, like Network Together, ntevents.net. Okay. And on that calendar shows our radio shows, shows our events, shows our academy, shows our meetings. You can find pretty much anything at that URL right there, ntevents.net.
That's perfect. Thank you again for sharing your insight, your knowledge, and your wisdom with us. We are always looking for opportunities to spotlight extraordinary people like yourself who are making a difference in the world. So thank you for all your hard work and your connections with people and spreading your heart to everyone. So thank you, Robert. We greatly appreciate that. And that's definitely going to be making a difference and an impact on the world and everybody that you come into contact with.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You're welcome. So if anybody's looking for more information about Robert, you can come to our website as well at theextraordinarybeingmovement.com, where we'll have some information about Robert Jones and his hard to spell website. We'll have it there so you can just click on the button and get right to it, as well as all his contact information. Feel free to download this episode on your favorite podcast platforming site, because there was tons of great information. So you will need to listen to this episode over and over again. So for more information, again, go to theextraordinarybeingmovement.com, where you can check us out there, all of our guests, up to coming guests, and so much more. We appreciate your support and your love. Have a good night, everybody. Bye now.